Hey everyone, welcome back to Hero Wars Guide. Today I'm going to talk about some of the squads that you're going to encounter in the Asgard raid in the Minion portion of that new game mode. And I'll talk about the individual enemy heroes that you're going to come up against and how to deal with them. And then I'll show a couple example fights. Alright, so let's get into this. First up, the Knight of the Milky Way. You can see the portrait at the bottom of the screen here. This is the enemy tank that you're going to come up against. They don't do much damage to you, so you don't really have to worry about them from a defensive standpoint. But they've got pretty high armor and magic resistance, and they'll get in your way as you're trying to get to the more important back rank minions. So how to deal with them? If you've got a tank with relatively high armor, then you don't really have to worry about these things doing damage at all. And as far as overcoming them, it's a little bit easier, I think, to take them down with magic attacks rather than physical, just because the magic defense of these minions are twice as strong, roughly, as the armor. So you'll hit them faster with magic. But really, the best way to deal with them is to have some heroes in your squad that are going to hit the more important enemies behind these guys and then deal with them at the end if you can. Alright, next up is the Asgardian Assassin. These are enemy physical attackers. They do a lot of damage to the frontmost hero, and they will counteract your own damage through dodge. If you've got a physical team, but they have very low magic resistance. So these things, again, are going to be vulnerable to magic attacking heroes on your side. So how to deal with them? I think armor as a tank is probably a little bit easier to squash these things down rather than a dodge tank like Aurora, or maybe only Aurora. Just because their enemy stats are the primary ability is reasonably high, so your dodge probably isn't going to overshadow it quite as much as your armor will if you've built up an armored tank like Astaroth or almost any. And so yeah, I've got some example stats through this deck here, and at 130 their armor penetration is only 6,800. So you could very easily have a tank that's got 30,000 armor if that guild setting of 130, and these things will do almost nothing. So how to take them down? You're going to have an easier time doing that, again, with magic damage dealers than physical, just because their magic resistance is very, very low at 2,300, again at level 30, 130. While their dodge is not through the roof, but 6,000 is a little bit more of a challenge to overcome than that paltry magic resistance. All right, the Sorceress. These things are pretty nasty. They're going to do a lot of magic damage to the farthest hero in your team away. So these are definitely a thing to watch out for, and you're going to want to bring these down as quick as you can. They themselves have very little damage mitigation. They don't have any armor. It's literally zero, and their magic resistance is pretty low as well. So if you can hit them, then they're not going to last long. So that's a great way to counter them, is just have some people in your team that will bypass the tank and take these things out directly. Or, I've got some others listed here. You can use Isaac. These sorceresses are doing magic damage, as you might expect, so he can mitigate some of that damage. If, there's some team that you can figure out where Isaac goes in the back, then he's going to charge up really quick and shut these things up for a little while, so you can take them all out. Otherwise, other than Isaac, if you've got someone who can hit these things in the middle of the enemy composition, then that'll be helpful for you. If you've got someone in the back that can soak up a lot of damage, maybe do some self-healing, like Martha, then that's going to do well for you also. Martha will take a few hits and then throw a few bubbles out and make your side last quite a bit longer in the fight. Otherwise, single target healing is a little bit better than area of effect if it's the healing's coming from somewhere else, like Celeste. If the back rank hero lasts long enough, then Celeste can do a decent job healing as well, as opposed to someone who's doing area of effect heal. So then enemy stellar soul healer. So these resemble what you may have come up against in chapter 14 of the campaign, where they're not doing much offensively themselves, but they have a really strong single target healing ability that they will cast on their allies. They do have some defenses, more than a few of the minions we discussed above. They've got a decent chunk of armor, but their magic resistance not particularly high. But really, the threat to these things is just that they'll keep the enemies up and running for way longer than you like. So how to counter them? I throw this first note in just because I've seen thrown around a lot that you could put in Cornelius to bring these things down quickly, but I think there's some risk to that, more so than you may have had in the campaign, because these things, at least at the 130 level, have 10,000 armor, which is quite a bit more than the other minions that you're going to come up against. So Cornelius's big hit probably won't do as much as you may have hoped, having no armor pen really to speak of, which is obviously one of Cornelius's biggest limitations. Further beyond that, if there are any of the Starfall Heralds or the Sorceresses, they have more intelligence than these things do anyway, so Cornelius probably won't even go for this thing. So don't put Cornelius in thinking that it's going to take these things down for you, most likely. But you can, as a countermeasure to their healing, you can negate some of that through using either Biscuit or Celeste or both. These things do so much healing that they're probably going to burn through the negation, but either of those two options can slow it down. And then lastly, I think it's easiest to counteract these things by having a consistent approach to your damage within your team. And by that I mean the team where you have several different heroes who are all doing area of effect, or you have several different heroes that are doing significant single target damage, preferably against something other than the tank up in the front, unless it's so powerful that it'll kill the tank before this healer can start curing it. Because the reason I say that is if you have a mix, then you're probably not doing enough single target damage that you'll bring down the enemy before the healer starts to get it back up to full strength. It'll just kind of round robin healing whatever's at the lowest if you're mixing your types. But if you've got consistent area of effect, then this thing can only heal one target at a time, so it'll go ahead and heal one of its allies back up to full strength, but your area of effect will be taking out everything else at the same time. So it can be a nice way around this. Alright, and then the Starfall Herald. This is the enemy mage. They do magic damage to all of the positions at once in your team. So, you'll see little black specks fall out of the sky and hit your team with magic damage. They have very low armor themselves, so physical damage dealers can hit these things pretty hard, and they do have a pretty good amount of magic resist relative to the others. I think it was something like 12,000 at level 130, so they hold up a little bit better against your magic attacking teams, unless you've got nice artifacts or good independent magic penetration that you're bringing to the fight. So how to counter them? Isaac, again, is going to be very strong against these things as they're doing area of effect magic attacks. Your own area of effect healing can be good against these. I don't have it listed here, but the physical attacking teams can bring these things down a little bit faster since they don't have any armor, especially if it's a physical attacking team that will hit their position quickly. Magic resistance artifacts are nice to have here. These things don't have an overwhelming amount of magic penetration, so if you stack a few of them up, then these things are basically shut down. If you do decide to play Cornelius, this is where his attacks are going to go, and they have very low armor again, so odds are good that if Cornelius gets a shot off at this thing, and then it's going down. And he'll charge Cornelius up pretty quickly since it's doing all that area of effect damage. All right, so some general notes about all of these things. In general, you're going to have more to fear from the enemy's magic attacks than their physical ones. As we just talked about, most of the big threats are coming from magic rather than physical. So, again, those magic resist artifacts can help you out more than blind and armor. And silence, either coming from Isaac or maybe Thea, will negate for a short time all of those magic attacking enemies. So that can be a key to success for you. Generally speaking, your tanks probably aren't going to go down first if you are losing against these teams, especially for reasonably well built up armor-based tank. Like my Astaroth is, if I deploy him against the minions, is usually ending the fight completely full. So the damage is coming to the back and middle of your party from most of these threats, and it's usually magic rather than physical. So all that adds up to Isaac and Martha being great additions to your lineup against these things. Martha can do so much of self-healing as well as providing area of effect healing to your whole group, and then Isaac is going to get charged up really quickly by the enemy magic attacks and silence them to prevent them from doing more. And most of them don't have very good armor either, so Isaac will be able to do some decent damage on his own, and definitely any artifact activation that he has will make your whole team ignore their armor if you did have any problems with it. And most of the enemies, though, have weak defenses, I would say. So it's more important, I think, to hit hard and hit fast. And if you can, really the only enemy that's got substantial defenses are those tanks. So if you've got your own heroes that can hit the middle and the back of their group, then that's probably going to serve you well. All right, so with that, I'm going to jump into a few example fights. I actually recorded these before I did all the research here behind this video, so knowing what I do now, I might have made a couple different choices, but that's why they say one of the best ways to learn something is to try to teach someone else. All right, I'm going to run some of the Minion squads here on a secondary account of mine. This is a free-to-play account. It's level 107, I want to say, and I think this could yield some more interesting matchups because my main team is only fighting against 130 minions this week, and I don't think they're going to be very hard, but this one might prove a little more difficult. So I'm going to skip the mini bosses here because I haven't done any fights yet, and I'm going to get some of the buffs that help me out with them later. So I'm going to skip to the squads, and I want to pass over this one here because if I'm going to fail any fights along the way, this is the reward I'm going to want to sacrifice first because it's the weakest at having only the crystal and vibrant crystal rewards, whereas the larger squads and the mini bosses are going to have this radiant and maybe even some of the insignia, or maybe this guild isn't fighting hard enough minions for that. I believe it's at 105 level this week. So let's see how it goes. I'm going to start by just clearing these squads out, just with a fresh board here. And so I can see we've got Assassin doing physical to the front line, the Sorcerer doing magic to the background, Healer, Herald's going to do magic across the board, and then Luther. Here we have a Knight doing a little bit of physical damage and tanking at the front. 2 Sorcerers, so this will hit the back line really hard with magic damage. Healer and Lilith. With 2 of them here, I don't have a great set to choose from, but maybe I'll throw in Astaroth to protect the back line a little bit. He'll absorb some of the damage with his abilities, and then maybe I'll put in some my best damage dealer, but I don't want him to be in the back and possibly get taken out by these 2, so I'll throw in Helios as well. They pair up decently well, and then if one of them gets killed, hopefully it's Helios rather than Orion. I'll have Celeste for some single target healing because Helios is probably going to get hit the hardest. Maybe Thea for a little bit more, even beyond that. And maybe I'll throw in Albus just in case Lilith here gets stacked up a little too high. There's not a whole lot of physical damage here on either of these squads, so I don't think I'm going to use my strongest pet. I'll probably put in Biscuit here for dealing with the healer, and I'll put in this guy is the second tank. The rest of my squads here, this will be hitting the middle, so I'm hoping that my middle line here gets charged up a little bit faster. Artemis, I don't know how well she's going to deal with this magic hitting the back, but hopefully Maya can keep her around. Alright, so let's see. I think I'm going to move some of these patronages. Galahad's probably going to need support here more than... Well, there's not really much going for him. So I'll leave that on Astaroth. Alright, and let's see how this goes. Galahad is getting hit pretty hard by this assassin, so maybe it was a mistake to not give him Oliver. My ass. Much higher power power, so even if Galahad goes down, we might be okay. Alright, nice. We got Jorgen's ultimate up before Luther came over. Started bothering our back line. Alright. 102, not bad. Yeah, so Helios is getting hit hard. The animation doesn't make very clear what's going on, but these two are doing a number on Helios. Doesn't look like Celeste is going to get her heal off before he goes down. Alright, but Astaroth popped him back up real quick. Like Lilith is gone. Ryan's about to ultimate, that's good. These things probably don't tank very well. Cool. Well, there we go. Worked out even with relatively weak teams here. Alright, here I'm going to run that same squad on my main account. Maybe this will be really easy, maybe it'll be a little more interesting. We'll see how it goes. Alright, so same lineup that we just looked at with my free-to-play team. Doesn't look like these minions change at all. I don't think they change week to week, and it doesn't look like they change depending on your minion level. Obviously the strength of them will change, but the lineup appears to be the same. Alright, so I think I'm probably just going to keep this fast attack lineup here. This heavy damage might take out Jet and maybe even Sebastian in the back, but I'm hoping they just go down fast enough here that it won't really matter. And then here, we got a mix of a couple different magic types, so, I'll throw in Isaac, what the hell, and, maybe I'll just go with twins, since that's the power I've got left here. Should be fine. Alright, let's see how it goes. Front line went down real fast. This magic damage coming down across the board is just charging up Isaac. Once he goes up, then this thing ought to end pretty quick. I don't know if that'll interrupt the healing. We'll see. But it should stop him from doing a new one. I guess it doesn't matter. It's over. Yeah, so these are maybe a little too easy for this team. It'll be interesting. So Jet's probably going to go down here, but you know, I don't think it should matter. Kira gets a couple hits off. She gets one ultimate, and then everyone's going to die. All right, welcome back. Sorry about the volume on those things. I still have lots to learn on the video editing side of things. Alright, but thank you for watching and sticking out to the end. If you think this is going to help you approach these minion fights in a better way, then please think about sharing this video with the rest of your guild so they can learn as well. Thank you.